Rankin. I'm basically one of the physios. There's two physios, myself and Justin, that work with the team at PREP4PRO. And our job primarily is to look after all the medical care for the players who come into camp. That's done various ways. We'll connect with the candidates before they come in and ask them for some medical history, that type of things, anything they need on camp. And then when we're at camp, Justin and myself will make sure we get the players prepared for training, or practice, as the Americans like to call it. Our role primarily during practice is to make sure it's first aid, so make sure nobody gets injured during practice. Afterwards, taking care of any strains they might have had during practice. Justin and myself will also, when we have match days, we'll be present at match days and then cover the medical case during the game. So we'll do things like, I'll talk to the guys about anti-doping. Justin will do things like nutrition. So we'll do educational workshops with the candidates as well. Post-camp, because they're part of the PREP4PRO family, as we like to call it, I'm always available through either Zoom or Teams or FaceTime. Any injuries or any advice that any of the candidates or the players have post-camp, they can always feed into John and Dana. They'll contact me and then we'll set up a little call. So we look after them even afterwards as well.
Yeah. So how did you get kick-started in this career? How did this all begin for you?
Oh goodness, well I've known John, who founded PREP4PRO. I've known John since we were both 5 years old, 6 years old. Me and John go back a long way. We grew up playing football. And then John went over to America to do his scholarship and his degree. Never came back. And then I went and did my career in physiotherapy, so did it through university. I qualified as a physio. I was full-time in football for 9 years. I've been qualified since 1995, worked in football since 94. To me and John have also kept in touch. John knew my background in football. So it was when John sort of founded PREP4PRO, he knew he needed a medical team. So he got in contact with myself. Yeah, that's how it came about.
So though being a physiotherapist, have you been a keen player at all in your time?
Well, that's why I'm a physio. John and myself played kids. I probably knew round about when I was about 16. In the UK, realistically, you'll know you're going to be a professional footballer round about 15, 16. If you're not realistically getting involved with clubs, then you're not struggling. You're struggling. I was okay. I was fairly average. A much better career as a physio than I would have done as a player, put it that way.
So what keeps you doing this job? What, ignites that spark in you to keep you going every day?
A lot of self-motivation. I love being a physio. I know it's a bit of a corny statement, but get a job that you like and you'll never work again. We've my own clinic in Glasgow. I'm here just now, Sunday at 5:30. My last patient just walked out the door. So I'll easily work 12, 13-hour days at the clinic. In terms of sports, I love sport. So to me, working in sports, fantastic. So what motivates me is I'm kind of obsessed by sport. I love my job that I do. I like getting involved in projects. I like working long hours. So yeah, that's what keeps me going.
Now, talking about the big COVID and how all this came about, what ways did COVID impact your job? Of
course, we are a hands-on profession. And big part of it, I don't particularly like doing physiotherapy online. You can do a few things, but I'm very much hands-on manual therapy. And so effective with that, we had to go to ground slightly at the start. But the good thing was we were actually exempt from closing. In the UK, physios can still work, practice, safe practice, but we do that anyway. So it doesn't really affect that. In terms of the sports, it pretty much took a nosedive because most of the sports shut down. And I do contractor work for sports. Football being one of them. The good thing was professional football in the UK started back up pretty quickly. We were quite fortunate that it was able to continue. So I'm very much all for disaster management. I didn't know COVID was coming along, but you always worry for something coming along. It gave my practice a dent, but it didn't totally affect it.
So how do you see the entire football landscape changing after COVID and, of course, Brexit?
I mean, there's certain things in COVID had to change. In terms of football, I don't really know why it would make such a difference to football as such. Mm-hmm. Certainly in terms of physio practice, yeah, you do think, okay, could we start maybe using PPE a little bit more than we've done normally? I'm not sure if it would make a massive difference in terms of football. Shouldn't really. We should be doing safe practice anyway in football. I mean, if you have standing areas, I mean, people shouldn't be herded in and packed into football grounds anyway. So it shouldn't really make a massive difference. Football should pretty much get back on its feet pretty quickly.
What do you see being next for Prep4Pro? Do you have any plans going forward or any projects coming up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we want to continue the camps in Williamsburg. They're great. To me, they are the kind of focal point of Prep4Pro. That's what we started doing, and I'd still like that continuing. John's forever thrown out projects and ideas. We've always muted satellite courses. We'll maybe go to things like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and do smaller camps, and then from there feed them into the bigger camp, which we do in Williamsburg. Pre-COVID, we were just in the cusp of moving Prep4Pro to also do a separate one in the Caribbean. We're still looking at that. Usual stuff, COVID kind of knocked it, but to me, it's the back burner. In the actual camps themselves, I think Justin and myself are quite keen to maybe do a bit more educational programs. We could then run first aid courses that coaches could come in and take part in, do a little bit more education that way. So there's still a lot going on. A lot going on, actually.
Have you ever seen any injuries that have made you be really shocked in your career?
There's quite a few. I mean, thing is with that, you hate to say this, but you just kind of get used to it. Broken legs, dislocated shoulders, some serious head injuries, etc., serious neck injuries. I do various sports. Football's my main one, but I also do a lot of work for British Gymnastics, a little bit of work for British Athletics, etc. So your risk of serious injury gets heightened with that. But it's one of those ones that you can't get too emotional about it. When you're dealing with a serious injury, it's funny, your training kind of kicks in. So we're taught how to deal with respiratory problems, heart problems. When you saw the thing with Christian Eriksen with a sudden cardiac problem. I mean, that it's interesting because the medics there, you'll have the Danish medical team in terms of the match day, the Finnish medical team, and then you'll have event medical staff. So it's in Copenhagen. So the venue will have medical staff, and all of them, by and large, will have been trained the same way. They have been trained as well in terms of immediate care. And it's amazing when you work with different medics. In general, it kicks in, and I've had this with Scottish Rugby. We do a lot of work with rugby. And sometimes I'll turn up to events and you're working with a totally different medical team, people you never met before. Then you have a serious neck injury and your training just kicks in. And it's amazing. You go, oh, we all just kind of fitted it. You did that, we did this, I did this, and then you got the player off.
So do you have a kind of adrenaline rush when these kind of things happen, where you just kickstart?
A little bit in sweat. So if I'm being really honest, it's all in the training. And you stay calm, and it's all about just exposing yourself to it. I mean, I avoided rugby injuries for ages just because I thought, oh, that's too serious. It'd be like me working in NFL, and you just go and do it, you get exposed to it, and the more you get exposed to it, you get used to it. That's how you confront fear. If you get a fear of the water, you go and learn to swim. So that's how you go over it. Did
you have a fear of certain things or going into certain things, and did you ever feel like that held you back?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, the football environment's a kind of funny environment because it can be very intimidating. I mean, you are going into a football dressing room, be it men's football or women's football, but you are literally walking into the inner sanctum of a football club, and they're very suspicious of outsiders. Footballers are inherently suspicious of outsiders. Performers in general, be it musicians, actors, any sports people, they're suspicious of outsiders. Reason being, they're always suspicious that somebody's out for personal gain and not really to help them. And I get that. I totally get that. So I've always went in with that attitude of just get your head down, be part of the team, don't be controversial, and just let your job do the talking. But that's probably more of that's intimidating than anything else. Being first day at school, isn't it? You don't know what your classroom's going to be like, but get your head down, bit in, and you'll be fine.
So what general advice, finally, would you give to anybody that wants to go into this practice and work in football?
Yeah, it's the best job in the world. So I always say to young physios who are just qualifying, don't think you're going to walk out of university and become the first team physio at Man United. It ain't going to happen. It might never happen. It's the job you want. How you get there is a different story. To me, you need to work in the lower leagues. Same as any American physio who wants to come out and work in football, work in the lower leagues, work in the lower clubs, join in with things like Prep4Pro, get your experience, and it's just building your craft and just building your experiences. It's no different to anything else. Start low and work your way up. We all make mistakes. The thing I tell people coming out to work in football is, if you pardon the expression, just don't be a dick. What I mean by that is fit in with the team. It's very much a team environment. Have a personality. but don't be too overbearing. Know when to shut up. That's the key thing. It's a bit like being a golf caddy. Golf caddies should know when to show up and shut up. So I'm not a coach. So I mean, we've got really good coaches at Prep. I will not tell them. No, don't get wrong. I've got an interest in football. I know about football, but there's a slight line where you think, oh, I'm just backing off here. It's not really my field to be telling the coaches how to coach. So that's where a lot of physios get caught out working in football, junior physios. Because we all love the sport, we think we can then become coaches. It doesn't work. And actually, what we do at the end of a camp, we'll do assessments. So we'll get each player in individually, and the coaches will sit them down and say, look, we think you've got a chance to play at this level, or we think you've got a chance, we think you should stay at this level or go to this. I'm present in those meetings, but I very rarely say anything in terms of the performance because it's not that's the coach. Coaches are experts at that and they're very good coaches. I'll then chip in with the physical side of it. Like we found out you maybe lacked a bit of flexibility here, or a little bit of power here. Why don't you try this? But in terms of the coaching, it's not my job.
Thank you so much, Alan, for taking the time out to speak to me. It was honestly a pleasure.
Cheers, Liza. Thanks for that. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.